Welcome to the deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're diving into The Capitalist Conspiracy,
Okay.
a book by Edward Griffin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of interesting. It's actually,
I've heard of this one.
it's a verbatim transcript of a documentary film.
Oh, wow.
But I think it's really interesting. It aims to expose what it calls a master conspiracy.
Oh.
And this master conspiracy is supposedly controlling world events.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it was inspired by The Naked Capitalist, which it claims is like one of the most important documents of our time.
Wow. So,
Setting the bar high, huh?
yeah, so we're going to be exploring the claims made in the source,
Right.
focusing on the main arguments and the evidence presented.
Yeah. What's fascinating is how the book tries to connect like all these seemingly random events and individuals to tell this story
Right.
of a master conspiracy.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about the stories we tell ourselves to try to make sense of the world.
For sure. So let's get into the core argument.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this book, it claims that there's a group of wealthy individuals manipulating global events for their own benefit.
Right.
But it's important to note, the book very clearly states
Okay.
this is not a communist conspiracy.
Okay, interesting. So it's not like the typical...
Right.
Yeah.
They're very clear about that.
That's a really important distinction because it challenges, I think, our normal understanding, these types of narratives.
Yeah.
It argues that this supposed conspiracy gains power by controlling the monetary systems of the world.
Right.
Essentially, they're claiming that they're manipulating the way money is created to increase their own wealth and influence.
Right. Yeah, and they even have this illustration. It's a bank-like building looming over a government building.
And it symbolizes what they call a private monopoly. They're saying this is financial control at play.
Yeah, that paints a pretty stark picture.
Yeah.
That's an intense image.
And this also ties into their assertion that the Federal Reserve System is a tool of this conspiracy. The book includes an image of the Federal Reserve Building, but with 12 private banks behind it, suggesting that there's this hidden network of control.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like this visual representation of their argument.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they give a real-world example of the merger of the Rockefeller Chase Bank with the Warburg's Manhattan Bank.
Wow.
They're trying
These big names.
Yes.
Big names.
They're trying to show that financial power is concentrated in the hands of a select few.
Right. It really feeds into the notion that things aren't always what they seem.
It's exactly.
That there's more going on behind the scenes.
And they have this quote from President Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, okay.
And Wilson, he confessed to feeling beholden to his advisors.
Interesting.
And the book uses this to link Wilson to Colonel House, who they claim was key to the conspiracy.
So they're using these historical figures to like add weight to their claims.
Yes.
It's almost like you can feel this this tension building because they're trying to connect all these dots.
Exactly. And then there's this really striking image. It's a man struggling under this huge weight.
Oh, wow.
And the weight is labeled national debt.
Okay.
The book is portraying national debt as a tool to control the masses.
Yeah.
It's a pretty bleak
it's a very
picture they're painting.
Yeah, it definitely evokes a sense of helplessness.
Right.
Like, is there anything we can do? This image combined with, the Wilson anecdote really tries to plant those seeds of doubt about the integrity of our institutions.
Okay, so how does the Council on Foreign Relations, or CFR, fit into all this?
Ah, the CFR. Well, the book describes them as this like semi-secret organization that has a lot of influence on U.S. policy, particularly foreign policy.
Okay.
And it portrays them as like playing this pivotal role in shaping events to fit the agenda of this this alleged master conspiracy.
Right, and they have this picture of the CFR headquarters on Park Avenue in New York City.
Okay.
And it's fancy.
It's
meant to
it's imposing.
Reinforce this idea of a powerful elite operating from, the heart of American finance and power.
They also mention Alger Hiss.
Okay.
He was a prominent member of the CFR. And the book claims...
He had this key role in post-war planning.
Okay.
And the formation of the United Nations.
Interesting. By focusing on these figures, like Alger Hiss,
the
book tries to, like, personalize this idea of a hidden network that's shaping global events behind the scenes.
Exactly.
It gives a face to what would otherwise be, you know, a very abstract concept.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And get this. The book claims the CFR only has 400 formal members.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the emphasis on the small membership number, it's meant to heighten this sense of exclusivity and secrecy.
Exactly. Okay, but where does it all begin?
Right.
Where do they claim this master conspiracy originates from?
Well, they go way back in time to Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati, you know, these secret societies that have always been like fodder for conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And they try to draw this link between these historical groups and the master conspiracy they allege is at work today.
They have this image of men in Masonic garb.
Okay.
With hidden symbols.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that definitely evokes the sense of mystery and clandestine operations.
Yes, exactly. And
yeah, the use of symbols like the all-seeing eye, it's really deliberate. They're trying to tap into our fascination with, you know, with the unknown.
Yes.
Like what's going on behind closed doors.
Exactly.
And, you know, these symbols create a sense of unease, like suggesting this hidden power structure is at play.
Exactly.
And they even point out that, you know, the all-seeing eye appears on the US dollar bill.
Right.
You know, further connecting this alleged ancient conspiracy to American currency.
They also introduce this concept of a master conspiracy.
Right.
Which includes, you know, a variety of groups.
Okay.
Even some who promote communism.
It sounds contradictory, doesn't it?
It does. It seems contradictory.
Yeah. It's a complex idea.
Yeah.
They're saying that this master conspiracy appears to oppose communism.
Okay.
But they're actually using it to advance their own goals.
Right.
And that really makes you question your assumptions about these groups and their motives.
Yeah. It's like that they're saying things aren't always what they seem.
Yeah, exactly. There's more than meets the eye.
They even discuss the recent riots in Cleveland's Huff area.
Okay.
And they're saying these riots were not the result of a communist-inspired
wow.
conspiracy.
Interesting. That really goes against a lot of what we hear, you know, in the news and in the common narrative.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example of how they're trying to challenge those conventional narratives and present their own interpretation of events.
Exactly.
It encourages us to, you know, look beyond the surface and consider these alternative explanations.
Exactly. So they're claiming this master conspiracy is controlling everything.
Yeah.
Do they offer any solutions?
Right. Like, what are we supposed to
What are we supposed to do about all this?
Yeah.
Well, they call for a dismantling of big government and a return to American independence. They're presenting this as a way to, like, take back power from this master conspiracy.
Right.
And they have this powerful image to illustrate this point.
Okay.
It's a towering UN building and the word freight next to it.
Wow. That's a powerful image.
Yeah, it's like they're suggesting that these international organizations like the UN are encroaching on our freedoms.
It plays on that fear of centralized power and loss of autonomy.
Exactly. They advocate for reducing government control over things like schools, police, and revenue sharing as a way to counter this master conspiracy.
So their solution is basically to reduce the size and scope of government. Get the government out of our lives.
And finally, they urge readers to support political candidates who are independent of what they call establishment politics.
Right. So this is their call to action.
Yeah.
They're trying to motivate people to resist the status quo.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
The capitalist conspiracy paints this very dark picture of the world.
Yeah.
With this master conspiracy pulling the strings.
It's a lot to unpack. What do you think about all this?
Well, I think it's crucial for us to remember that, you know, this is just one perspective.
Okay.
It presents the specific interpretation of history. And, you know, it connects various historical dots to create this narrative.
Yeah.
But it does raise some interesting questions. Like, if this conspiracy does exist, how would it manifest in today's world?
Right.
How would we be able to recognize its influence?
That's a great question.
That's a great question to ponder. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we left off, we were talking about the book's call to action, urging readers to resist what they call establishment politics.
Yeah, it's this theme throughout the book, this idea that a small group controls the system.
Right.
And ordinary people need to, reclaim their power. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does.
Like, if this master conspiracy is as powerful as they're saying, can one person really make a difference?
Yeah, it's a little daunting. It almost feels like we're just pawns in their game.
Yeah, that's one way to interpret it.
Right.
But remember, the book also emphasizes the importance of knowledge and understanding.
Right.
Like, they're arguing that by educating ourselves about how this thing works, we can start to resist it.
Okay.
So maybe it's not about, single-handedly dismantling this whole system, but more about becoming more aware and discerning, as citizens.
Yeah, that makes sense. So knowledge is power.
Exactly.
But let's get back to some of the specific claims in the book.
Okay.
I was really caught by their discussion of the Federal Reserve System.
Yeah, the Fed.
It's always been a bit of a mystery to me.
Yeah, it plays like a central role in their narrative. They present it as this secretive institution that controls the flow of money, and manipulates the economy to help the elite. They even say that the Fed is responsible for creating money out of thin air.
Oh, wow.
Devaluing our savings.
Yeah, it all sounds pretty nefarious.
Yeah.
But I got to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't really know how the Fed works.
Oh, right.
Could you maybe shed some light on that?
Of course. So the Federal Reserve is this central banking system. It was created in 1913. And its goal was to provide some stability to the financial system.
Okay.
It has a number of responsibilities, including setting interest rates, lending money to banks, and regulating the money supply.
Okay, so it's not just this shadowy cabal that's pulling the strings.
Well, it's certainly more complex than the book makes it out to be.
Okay.
While they do have, a significant impact on the economy, their actions are overseen by Congress and the public. It's not this all-powerful entity that can just dictate things.
Okay, so their portrayal of the Fed seems a little exaggerating.
Yeah, it seems like they're maybe simplifying things a bit.
Right, okay. What about the Council on Foreign Relations?
The CFR.
They make them sound like puppet masters, controlling global politics.
Yeah, they paint a pretty sinister picture of the CFR, suggesting they're the architects of U.S. foreign policy, working against the American people. And they highlight, the fact that many high-ranking officials, like secretaries of state and defense, have been members of CFR.
Right, so they're using their influence to advance the agenda.
Right.
But wouldn't the CFR have a different perspective?
Well, the CFR describes itself as a nonpartisan organization that wants to promote understanding of international affairs and U.S. foreign policy.
Okay.
They host these discussions and debates on all sorts of topics, bringing together experts, from various fields. Right. It's not exactly a secret society, as the book claims.
Okay, so maybe their portrayal is a little biased.
It seems like they're, choosing information to fit their narrative.
What about their claims about the historical roots of the conspiracy? They talk a lot about Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati.
Right. Well, they try to trace the origin of this master conspiracy back to the 18th century, connecting it to the Illuminati, which has always been, a popular topic for conspiracy theories.
Right.
And they highlight symbols like the all-seeing eye as evidence of the Illuminati's influence.
But don't those symbols have other meanings?
Right, yeah.
Like, isn't the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill a Masonic symbol?
Yeah, it is.
Representing divine providence.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
The all-seeing eye has been used by all sorts of groups and cultures throughout history, often representing knowledge, awareness, or a higher power, attributing it only to the Illuminati seems like a stretch.
It feels like they're taking things out of context to fit their narrative.
Exactly.
What about their idea of a master conspiracy encompassing all these different groups?
Right.
Even some who promote communism.
Yeah, that's that just seems... It's a bit of a leap.
Yeah. Seems so improbable.
I agree. It's a little far-fetched.
Yeah.
You know, to attribute that much power and coordination to this alleged network would require a lot more evidence.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, complex events are rarely the result of just one group pulling the strings.
So they're not really giving us a balanced perspective on things.
I have a very specific agenda.
What about their proposed solutions?
Right.
What do they say we should do?
Right. How do we fix this?
To counter this thing?
Well, they advocate for a dismantling
of big government reduction in taxes and the abolition of the Federal Reserve.
Wow, okay.
Essentially, they want to shrink the government and go back to this more laissez-faire approach.
So it's a very libertarian perspective.
Very much so.
But wouldn't that have, like, negative consequences for social programs? And
that's a valid concern.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, reducing government involvement could lead to unintended consequences.
Okay.
Particularly for those who rely on, on government assistance.
So we need to think about the downsides of their proposed solutions.
Exactly. We need to consider the trade-offs.
Right. You can't just dismantle things without thinking about what might happen.
Right. And that's why it's so important to, really think about these claims and propose solutions.
You know, we need to understand the nuances and complexities before we decide what to do.
Okay. So what are some alternative perspectives on these issues?
Oh, absolutely. There are tons of different schools of thought when it comes to economics, politics, and international relations.
Okay.
For example, some economists argue that government intervention is necessary to prevent market failures, and to ensure fairness.
So it's not as simple as big government bad.
Not at all. It's much more nuanced. It's about finding the right balance between freedom and responsibility.
What about foreign policy? The book seems to be pushing a very isolationist approach.
Right. Like the U.S. should just withdraw from global affairs.
But other people argue that the U.S. should play a leadership role.
Exactly. You know, promoting democracy, human rights, global security.
So again, multiple perspectives to consider. It seems like the book is giving a very narrow view.
A very specific lens,
So the world is a very complex place.
It is.
And there are no easy solutions.
Yeah, usually.
We need to engage with different perspectives.
Absolutely.
And critically evaluate the information we're taking in.
Yeah, it's about forming, informed opinions.
Okay, it seems like the capitalist conspiracy is trying to raise awareness, but maybe not offering the most realistic solutions.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So what's the takeaway?
Well, the big thing is to approach these kinds of things with a critical mind, Don't just accept everything at face value.
Do your research.
Exactly. Consider different perspectives and be careful of any source claiming to have all the answers.
So skepticism is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what about people who who feel like the system is rigged?
Yeah, that's a valid feeling.
What advice do you have for them?
Well, I think it's about channeling those feelings into positive action.
Okay.
Get involved in your community, support organizations that that align with your values and engage in thoughtful discussions with people who think differently.
So it's not about fear or paranoia.
It's about empowering ourselves to make a difference.
Okay.
And remember, knowledge is power.
For sure.
The more we understand about the world, the better equipped we are to deal with the challenges and create change.
Okay, that makes sense. So it seems like the capitalist conspiracy is more about raising questions than providing answers.
I think so.
Okay, well, we'll wrap up this part of our deep dive, but don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because we're going to wrap things up.
Okay.
Leave you with some questions to think about.
Sounds good.
And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the capitalist conspiracy. We've talked about a lot, from this master conspiracy to their critiques of the Federal Reserve and the Council on Foreign Relations.
Yeah, it's been fascinating, looking at how these conspiracy theories kind of offer these different explanations for complex events.
Yeah.
And they often appeal to, our desire for simple answers.
Right. You know what strikes me is how the book plays on our fears, especially about money.
Right.
I mean, who hasn't felt powerless when it comes to the economy?
That's a great point. The book taps into this unease that many people feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially about things like national debt, the power of these institutions.
It's like they're saying, hey, it's okay to feel this way.
Exactly.
There's a reason things feel so out of control.
Right. And that message can be really powerful, especially for people who feel like they don't have a voice.
Exactly.
It gives them validation and maybe some hope.
But as we've said, their solutions seem, I don't know, kind of oversimplified. Like just get rid of big government and poof.
Yeah, and everything's fixed.
It doesn't seem realistic.
It's definitely a radical approach.
Yeah.
And while there are good arguments, for limited government, their solutions seem to kind of ignore the downsides.
Like what kinds of downsides?
Well, for one, dismantling the Fed could lead to more instability.
In the markets?
Right.
It's not that easy.
And reducing the government's role in, say, healthcare and education could leave people vulnerable.
Yeah, we have to remember these systems serve a purpose.
Right.
Getting rid of them without thinking about the consequences could be really harmful.
So where does that leave us?
Well, I think the big takeaway is to be critical of these narratives. Don't take everything as fact.
Right.
Do your own research. Look at different perspectives and be careful of anyone who claims to have all the answers.
Skeptical.
Yeah.
But what about people who feel like the system is rigged?
That's a valid feeling.
What advice would you give them?
I'd say channel those feelings into something positive.
Okay.
Get involved in your community. Support organizations you believe in. And talk to people who have different views. So it's about taking action.
Yeah.
Not giving in to fear.
Exactly. It's about empowering ourselves.
Okay. And knowledge is power.
For sure.
The more we know, the better we can handle challenges.
Yeah, and make a difference.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the capitalist conspiracy.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
On this journey. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive. Stay curious, stay informed, and keep thinking critically.